in the description section of this video, you'll see it goes by age. So if you're looking for a bat size chart, we broke it up by age. Use those links down there to jump to those sections of the video, unless you want a little speech about how we built this stuff. That's what we'll give you for the first minute or so, and then we'll jump into those ages. We don't expect anyone, like ever, to watch the full length of this video. It is, I mean, it's bat size chart. It's boring, man. Like we have no expectation that you're watching this thing from beginning to end. Our expectation is you're jumping around to find your specific bat size and based on age, and then pausing it and looking at the charts and the graphs and sorts. Otherwise, it's terribly boring. We surveyed about 1,500 people from our website, which is batdigest.com. And we asked them about their bat size. And we got, again, 1,500 responses, and we broke them up by ages. And we asked them questions like, what size bat do you swing, obviously? Do you like the bat size? Does it feel right? How strong of a player are you? How weak of a player are you? How tall? How skinny? How fat? How short? And how good of a player are you? And then we did this thing called a statistical regression. Be careful, you might learn something here, but a regression. We took all those variables and we tried to use them to predict the appropriate bat size for any kind of player. This is what we found, and you'll see in these charts that we look at. We found, and somewhat of some note, we found that those factors, skill level, height, or the height, average height, weight, strength, that those factors actually don't predict a right bat size very well. It doesn't predict someone's happiness with their bat based on how tall they are or short they are, fat they are, skinny they are, good they are, not good, or strong or not strong. Which is funny because that's almost the only way that most bat size charts are built. Right now on the internet, you go out there, you look at it, it says, hey, I'm 46 inches tall and the length of my arm is this whatever, and therefore I should swing this bat. But the truth is, we didn't find in the actual real live data, empirical data, as we might say, in the empirical data, we did not find actually anything to support that is predictive for the right bat size, measuring parts of our body or our skill level. No. In fact, the only thing that we found predictive as to what kind of bat that we should use, meaning when we say predictive, what we mean by that is that it's the only variable that did a good job explaining what bat we use or what size bat we should be using is, wait for it, it's age. That's it. We found that when we categorize folks by age, that things like strength and weakness and height and weight, whatever else in there, that those things did not predict well what bat size to use. So for example, a strong 12-year-old and a weak 12-year-old might be using the same exact bat, and they both might actually be quite happy with it. A strong 17-year-old and a weak 17-year-old, or a tall 17-year-old and a short 17-year-old, they might be using the same size bat, and they are both perfectly happy with that bat size. So we took that data, we put them into some pretty interesting charts called alluvial charts, which you'll see here in a minute. Assuming you didn't fast forward to those ages already. And also some bubble charts saying the most common bat sizes for certain ages. So that's how this video is broken up. Again, if you got through this section, we would look down in the description of this video. We would jump to the particular age that you are or your hitter is, and we'll talk you through the actual data that we gathered. Or you can also just go to our site, batdigest.com, go to our bat size chart, which is under our bat lab section, and you'll see all these charts there that you can look at and kind of mull over yourself and make your own determinations. Bat size chart survey data, this very first sheet that you can look at right here that's in front of you, this is easy, right? This is actual survey data. What we did is we took the non-BBCOR and the BBCOR section, and you can see this is the most common size and the second most common size. So the very quick answer is, if you're 10 years old, and you want to see what bat size you use, well, 33 plus 25, that's 58%. No, 53% of 10-year-olds swing either a 29-19 or a 30-20. That's how you read this chart. Now, there's more bats, and we'll show them individually. But in one big sort of gulp, this survey, this bat size chart, shows every single bat size that you can do. Notice, for example, which I find sort of interesting, is if you look on a 16-year-old, for example, that we can show 16-year-olds, 45 and 32%, so 77%, 3 out of 4 16-year-olds either swing a 33-30 or a 32-29. Now notice the difference here is 3, right? Because these are all BBCOR bats, and that's the case with all these ages. But that's the most predictive size. Doesn't matter if you're tall or strong or big or long or whatever it is. If you're 16, you're probably going to swing a 33-30. And if you're not swinging that, you're probably swinging a 32-29. And there's another bat in there that we'll show you here. So if I were you, I'd pause this. You can find this chart on our site as well. For a 7-year-old, you're going to find that most kids are swinging, again, a 27-17. But the most common bat length is 27 inches. The most common bat weight is 17 ounces. Even if they're swinging like a 28, you see a lot of those guys are swinging 17, so they're going to swing a drop 11. Even some 29 drop 12s, right? This one here shows the bigger the circle, the more common it is. So again, the most common bat is a 27-17, then a 28-18. And you kind of get the guess here, right? Weight, strength, skill level, they don't do a great job of predicting the right bat size, which is remarkable, but at the end of the day, it in fact is true. So I'll give you an example for the 7-year-old. If you're looking at 7-year-olds, you look at strength, the strength category. If you think your son, your 7-year-old son, or if you're 7-year-old and you're 7 years old and you're watching this, hi. But just know that if you consider yourself a strong 7-year-old, then you'll notice in terms of bat distribution or weight, it's pretty simple. Some of them swing 17, some swing 18, some swing 19, some swing 13 ounces. On the this way, in terms of length, you got some that swing 27, some that swing 28, some that swing 29. So again, this is called an alluvian or alluvial chart, and it just shows how it sort of flows from length. So you can pause that and look at it. But in the end, if you're not quite sure, we say 27-17. Maybe you want to go to a 28-18, but ultimately stay in that 17-ounce range. And for whatever reason, if you want to go up an ounce or down an ounce, you're not going to be crazy. Lots of kids are swinging 16-ounce and 18-ounce bats that are 7 years old, but most of them are swinging 17-ounce bats, and most of them are swinging 27-inch bats. 8-year-olds, welcome, 8-year-olds. If you're an 8-year-old watching this, great job finding the internet working, but it's probably mom or dad or grandpa. Look, 8-year-olds, the most common bat size for an 8-year-old is a 28-18, followed closely by a 29-19, and you can get a feel for these things here. The red and the yellow, we did ask people how heavy they felt the bat was, and some of them, on average, said the bat was a little too heavy, a 30-20. Some said a 27-17 is a little too light. So if you look back at this bat size chart, this alluvial chart, you'll find there's a pretty good spread for 8-year-olds, and a lot of them, although many are swinging 18-ounce bats, there's still a lot swinging 19, a lot swinging 17, but most of these people are pretty happy, and most kids can make things work. But we would say you're really focus on a 28-inch. So if you're going to get a 28-inch bat and then drop 11 to come down to a 17-ounce or a drop 10, that's kind of the wheelhouse we feel like most 8-year-olds should be player height. And you think your 8-year-old is particularly tall, you'll still notice a lot of tall 8-year-olds, still a decent distribution on what they swing. 27, 28, 29-inch bats, 15 all the way up to 19-ounce bats, it looks like. And so a very big range, and they're all generally happy with their bats. So again, stay in that middle, 28-18, maybe 29-19, maybe 29 drop 11. That's where you want to be for an 8-year-old bat size. And not really dependent on how heavy they are or how tall they are or how strong they are. People swing all types of bats, and those attributes, skill, strength, player weight, player height, not very predictive. For 9-year-olds, tons of options for 9-year-olds, and honestly, it only gets crazier up until you get to be about 12. So you'll see a lot of options. But again, the average kid is swinging a 28 or a 29-inch bat with an 18 or 19-ounce weight. If you look on this bubble chart, 29-19, 28-18. In fact, just as many kids are swinging 28-18, a little bit more than 29-19. But you get the idea. This is really where you should be if you are 9 years old. And back to this alluvial chart, doesn't really seem to matter. You can pause it and look at all the details. But ultimately, player weight, heavy kids swing all types of bats. Player height, short kids swing all types of bats. Some again, are swinging these 20-30s. Skill level, really very good players. In fact, very good players. Majority are swinging between 28 and the 29, 18 and 19. So that's it, right? That's where you should be. 9-year-old, 28, 18, 29, 19. I think the vast majority of players are pretty happy with either one of those bats, regardless of how tall or strong or fast or fat they are. 10-year-olds, the most common bat size for a 10-year-old is a 29-19. Then you have a 30-20. Most of the people by 10-year-old apparently have figured out the right size bat for them because everybody actually felt like it was the right size when they responded to our survey. And we had something like 300 different people respond who were in the 10-year-old bat category. And again, not very predictive in terms of your strength or your skill, your weight or your height. Short players, you'll notice, swung a good distribution of these bats. So it didn't matter if they were short or tall. Strong players, right? 19 ounces, 20 ounces. They all sort of stayed in this wheelhouse of 29 19s, 30 20s. Most common bats right here. Again, if you're 10 years old looking for the right bat size, you're probably going to be at a 30-20 or a 29-19. When in doubt, do what everybody else is doing. 11-year-olds, this is when the separation really starts to happen and really peaks at 12-year-old in terms of the different body size and different types. But again, we sound like a broken record with each one of these things. It turns out that skill and height and weight and all those things, they're not very predictive in terms of what bat size works the best. In fact, if you just look at the average size, most kids just swing a 30-20. Now, there's a lot of other sizes in here, right? You got some kids who are even swinging like a 31-26. You got some kids that are swinging all the way down to like a 19-ounce bat. Huge range, but it turns out they're all still pretty happy. So when in doubt, we would say choose the 30-20. If you're not exactly sure, that's where most 11-year-olds are, is at a 30-20. And even if you look at something like skill level, where the skill level 11-year-old can range dramatically, because some kids have been playing since they were 4, some kids this is their first year playing baseball. What bat did they get? But look, even those very good, excellent, look at the excellent players, for example. There's a lot of excellent players that are swinging a 29-19. A lot of excellent players swinging a 30-20. Some are swinging the 31. Some are swinging the 32. Very good players. Very simple distribution. Regardless of how good you are at 11 years old, it turns out that you're probably swinging a 30-20, maybe a 31-21, maybe a 29-19. That's sort of the world you're living in. And even the 30-22 would be just fine. I would say don't overthink your bat size choice. Stay within those 4 right there, and it's very possible you're going to be pretty happy with your bat at 11 years old. 12 years old, bat size chart. This is the craziest time for bats. Kids' body types dramatically shift, and they're so different at 12 years old that it's really difficult to pin down an exact bat size. But notice this. Some bats are too light, some bats are too heavy in terms of the 300 people that responded, but there's definitely some that people really like, and that's a bat like the 31-21 or the 30-20. If you're really looking for the right bat size and you haven't really played around with a lot of these bats, we would say stay right at home, 31-21, 30-20, maybe even something like a 32-22. That's the neighborhood that we would stay in terms of finding the right bat size. Now, do know, there are some people who swung a 31-26 at 12 years old, and they think it's the perfect bat for them. And that would be the case for you. But if you're on the internet searching for bat size chart, it's probably because you've never swung a 31-26, and you don't know how it feels. So if you're just going to guess this is the first bat you're buying, or maybe you're trying to find out what size is right for you because the one you got doesn't work, well, great. Now you know you probably need to stay in this wheelhouse. You need to stay in the 31-21 world, maybe the 30-22 world. You get that idea. And if you come back to this alluvial chart, it's ridiculous, the number of options. Look at this. 12-year-olds' bat sizes range from 18 ounces to 27 ounces. It's the biggest range. It's the biggest range of any bat size year that we measure, and a lot of it is because kids' body types are so different at 12 years old. They could be swinging an 18 ounce or a 27 ounce. But again, 31-21, 30-20, 32-22. Notice the lengths are all pretty predictable in terms of, hey, look, 30, 31, 32-inch bat. That's the neighborhood you should stay in. And when in doubt, like we said, 31-21, 30-20, and you'll be happy with your bat size. 13-year-old, this is the non-BBCOR section. So there's lots of 13-year-olds that play BBCOR, which is drop 3. That'll be the next section that we do. So you can find that link in the description of the video to click on it. You can also just watch this one and wait for the next one, I guess. But anyway, it's 13-year-olds, non-BBCOR section. This is the non-BBCOR bats. Not as big of a range as 12-year-olds, which is interesting, but from 20 ounces to 27 ounces is where people seem to hang out. If you notice, the most common bat size is at 31.26, so the drop 5. Our survey, which we only had about 100 non-BBCOR players come, lots of them thought that 32.27 was too heavy for them. Might not be too heavy for you, but on average, I thought it was a little too heavy. So again, if this is your first time buying a bat, we'd avoid the 32.27. We'd probably try to stick with this 31.26, 32.22, 30.25. You get the idea. These green ones is where we would stay if this is our first time buying a bat and we were 13 years old. As we said in the other little sections, we wouldn't care too much about your strength or your skill, your player height. In fact, if you look at player height and you look at the very tall people, in fact, if you look at every very tall section of our alluvial charts, you'll find that a lot of very tall players actually like shorter bats. And we don't know exactly why that is. That's like an anomaly we found in the data. But ultimately, very tall players, again, it's not very predictive like a lot of bat size charts say that it should be. Oh, you're this tall, this heavy, swing this bat. No, not really true. We actually just found that at 13 years old, these are the kind of the bats you would like and a lot of kids like. And their skill level or strength or weight or height, not very predictive in terms of saying, hey, this is the right bat size for you. When in doubt, we'd say buy the average one, right? Buy a 31.26. Chances are you're going to be perfectly happy with that bat. For whatever reason, if you want to drop 10 because your bat doesn't come in a drop 5, which is real common, then go with this 32.22 or maybe find a drop 8, 31.23. If you've already swung a 32.27 of your teammates and you love it, you know it's it, well, of course then. You don't need this video or a bat size chart. You know what bat size you want and what bat size you like. You get the 32.27. But again, if this is your first time buying a bat, you're 13 years old, non-BBCOR, wondering what's the right size for you, we'd stick in this 31.26 sort of range and then maybe even bounce to a 32.22 or a 31.23. Something to consider. Next year, you're going to swing BBCOR bats. So you're going to have to go to a drop 3. There's some people that say we want to get them accustomed to swinging a heavier bat. So you might want to try to at least do a drop 8 this year. If not, stick to this drop 5 so that jump for next year isn't so massive in terms of the weight of your bat. But something to think about. But again, on average, those are the bats we would choose. Okay, 13-year-old BBCOR bats. So this is obviously all drop 3 stuff. A lot of people play drop 3 or BBCOR for 13 years old. Starts to get a little quieter in terms of how much movement there is in these charts. For obvious reasons, there's just not as many options. The average 13-year-old swings a 32.29 or a 31.28. Truth is, if you're just trying to figure out what bat size you want, these guys right here are going to make you pretty happy. There are some people who actually swing a 29.26. There are a few BBCOR bats that come in that size, like the Slugger Solo Series, Easton Speed Series. I feel like there's another one out there, but you get the idea. You can get the 29.26, go for it, but it's probably you're probably going to feel it's light. If you don't know what you're doing, first time buying a bat, we'd probably avoid that. We'd stick with a 32.29 or a 31.28. If you look at this alluvial chart, you'll find again, sound like a broken record, your characteristics of maybe how tall you are or strong you are or whatever it is, not very predictive in terms of what kind of bat you will like. Ultimately, all these bats seem to do a pretty good job of fitting for what you need. 32.29, 31.28, that's where we would stay. If you're a 13-year-old BBCOR player, we would stick right with these two bats, and we're going to guess you're going to be pretty happy with either one of those, regardless of the type of player or background or strength or level that you come from. 14-year-old BBCOR chart. This starts to get real simple. It's 14 years old. Most people are seeing us 32.29. The average of about 100 surveys that we did take, those who said they're in the 33 range, feel they're a little bit too heavy. Doesn't mean it won't be too heavy for you, but on average, they did say, hey, a 33 is probably a little bit too big at 14 years old. So again, we would just suggest if this is your first time buying a BBCOR bat and you're 14 years old, stick with what everybody else is doing, 32.29. If you are scared that it's too heavy, well, geez, go with the 31.28. And honestly, you're going to be happy with that too. I think both of them are going to work just fine in terms of predicting player height, player weight, strength. Just not very predictive in terms of what the right size bat is for you. We do think it's interesting, although we had only a couple people say that they were struggling hitters at 14 years old. The struggling ones were only swinging 33.30. So again, maybe avoid a 33.30 if you're struggling. Stay in that 32.29 kind of range. 14 years old, we would just say stay with the 32.29 unless you have a really weird reason for going somewhere else. If you're scared about it being too heavy, just make sure your 3229 is a balanced version of the bat. So it's kind of doesn't say end loaded or XL or power on the bat, and more than likely it's not end loaded. If you're really concerned, go to our site, look at our reviews, and we always talk about the swing weight of the bat. You want one that's called balanced or hand loaded or speed or something like that, and you'll be just fine with 3229 as a 14-year-old. All right, 15-year-old bat size chart. The chart gets to be pretty quiet here and pretty predictable. That's because, again, at 15, there's not a ton of options in terms of bat sizes. There's not drop 5s and drops 8s and drop 10, right? Basically only drop 3s, and there's really only like 4 sizes. And at this point, we've moved on from the 30 27s and even the 29-26s. We didn't survey a single 15-year-old that was swinging either a 29 or a 30-inch BBCOR. And there are some of those BBCOR bats out there, not very many, but nobody's even swinging that. The vast majority of these players, 15-year-olds, are swinging 32-29. If you're hesitating between the 32-29 or the 30-30, the truth is you're going to be, on average, you're going to be happy with either one of them. Doesn't matter. I mean, and I know people say, well, the bat size matters. No, you're going to be just fine. If you're concerned this one's going to be too heavy, then get a 32-29. If you think you can handle it, you've swung a 32-29 when you were 14, you want another bat, you're going to get a new one. We think the vast majority of 33-30 player 15-year-olds are going to be really happy with a 33-30. There's even some out there who think this is the right size for them. Again, when in doubt, this is the first bat you've bought, or you're new to buying bats at 15 years old, which would be unique, but maybe you are. We just do what everybody else is doing. Get a 32-29, and more than likely you're going to be perfectly happy with that size bat. All right, 16-year-olds. Real easy almost for 16-year-olds. If you see the most common bat sizes, it's a 33-30. For most 16-year-olds, they're very happy with 33-30. They're happy with 32-29s. That's their wheelhouse. You'll notice on this alluvial chart, again, not very predictive. Now, the only people that said they were swinging a 34-inch bat are the people that consider themselves excellent. On average, they tended to believe that they were happy. See, it's green, right? So it worked for them. But other than that, and again, a lot of excellent players used a 33. A lot of excellent players used a 32. It's not very predictive in terms of your height, weight, strength, and skill level. The only thing we found, again, is that very tall players seem to like shorter bats, which seems very weird to us. But in any event, that's it. Otherwise, at 16 years old, we'd say 33-30, 32-29. When in doubt, get a 33-30. If you're scared that's going to be too heavy, go with a 32-29. You're going to be perfectly happy. If you are a remarkable baseball player, you've been playing for a while, you know you're not watching this video because you already know you need a 34, 31, or want one of these. And so there you go. All right, our last one in the group, 17-year-old baseball bat size chart. We surveyed about 50 people responded. The thing is, at 17 years old, most people don't need a bat size chart. They already know the bat size that they are getting. They've been swinging one for 3 years, and they might want to go up an inch or down an inch for their senior year or maybe their junior year, depending when their birthday is. But in the end, most 17-year-olds swing a 33-30. That's it. They're all very happy with their bat. Not surprising. They figured out bats at this point in their baseball career. You get just as many people swinging a 32-29 as do a 34-31. If for some reason you've just started playing baseball and you don't know what size of bat you want, you're going to try out your senior year and get it done, well, welcome to the game. We're excited to have you. And I'm not quite sure it matters what bat you get as long as it's a 33-30 or a 32-29. If for some reason you think you can really wield one, sure, get a 34-31. But you'll notice down here, you'll even find like very strong players still are very happy with a 33-30, as well as even some of them are swinging 32-29s. So for what it's worth, there you go. And that is a baseball bat size chart for a 17-year-old.